we're going to talk a little bit about the 30th anniversary release and other parts of your career too, if that's okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, I'll try not to push your memory too much. We'll see how we go.
Oh, that's okay.
Just to start, has re-recording the songs from your debut album led you to go back and reflect on that period of time in your life when they were written?
Did it cause me to reflect on it
Yeah.
when they were written? Oh, okay. Did it cause me to think back? Nah. I remembered how it was to record them the first time. I was put in mind of that. Like Ricochet in Time, when I recorded that in 1989 or 88, whatever year it was that particular one got done. I lived in New York City, and I was it was a Friday, and I had to take a train to Boston to do a gig up in Cambridge, and there was a snowstorm, so it must have been late 88, and there was a snowstorm, and I didn't want to go. Like, I was like, whoa, really? And I just was so sad that I had to leave the studio and go get on this train. And so I was almost crying the whole time I recorded that song. And I think I did it in like one take. And I think right after I got done doing it, I just started crying. So I remember that. But mostly, I just, I've done several of them a lot over the past 30 years, but some I haven't done very much. After Steady On came out, there's 2 or 3 that I didn't do as much after the first 5 years, and it's been 30. So I got to know some of the songs again, and that was really rewarding and fun. And, I feel proud of all of them, and it was nice to kind of get reacquainted with some of them.
I guess this would have been a relatively easy album to record. You've lived with these songs for 30 years, and you're recording them pretty much in the same mode as they were written. So was it just a matter of recording each song till you got a complete take that you were happy with?
For the most part, it was. The ones that I've done pretty consistently over 30 years were easiest, of course, because I'm used to playing them, and I play, mostly when I play out live, I play alone. So, that's the format I'm used to. But some of them, like I said, I hadn't played in a while, and I had to relearn them. So that took a little bit of woodshedding before I went into the studio, and probably had to record a few more takes of those. But every song on the record is basically, one single take. And if there was something that was really outstandingly bad, we could go back to another take and kind of massage it in there, If there was a guitar mess up but there was no click track or anything. It's just the wonders you can do with Pro Tools anymore, or whatever kind of software they've got now. You can fix little things. So there was some of that, not a lot.
So you were in your 30s when Steady On came out, so you certainly had gone through years of paying your dues beforehand. Looking back, was there anything you think you could have done differently to bring that debut forward?
Oh, no, nothing. No, it all makes sense to me. I think it was all necessary, every bit of dues paying. And, I think most pointedly, I didn't write songs for a long, long time. And I might have been able to make a record before I got the record deal with Columbia and we made Steady On, but I didn't write songs, and I didn't want to make a record of cover songs. I just felt like I hadn't fully formed as an artist yet, until I really started writing songs. And I was trying to write, and they weren't very good, and at least I didn't think so. And then for, a variety of reasons and through a variety of circumstances, I kind of found my songwriting voice, in late '87, around, and really everything that got written almost on Steady On was done in a 2.5 year period of time.
Do you think perhaps in hindsight it may have been an advantage being in your 30s in terms of being better equipped to cope with the success and notoriety that came with it?
I think I think that's the case. I think, let's see. It was such how do I put this? To have been playing professionally since I was 18, and however many years that is, 12 years, right? Till you're 30. Forgive me, I'm horrible at math. And, I was so grateful. This was my dream come true, and because it was my dream come true since I was a kid, but I worked hard for those 12 years in not the best circumstances, for not the most money, and I romanticize those times with good reason. The struggling days are there's a romanticism to them. You make great friends. You learn about yourself. You get a work ethic, and you get good. Playing live, you get good. That's my opinion. When I'm asked, do you have any advice, for up and coming musicians, I say, do what you love and play live, because you get good. So I was ready when that record came out. I was grateful. I'd done what I needed to do. I went out there to promote it. I knew what I was doing. I could back it up. I could play well, perform well, and I had some humility and some maturity and wisdom. I have more now, hopefully, but I think it was an advantage. Honestly, I wouldn't have had it any other way. It all happened just the way it was supposed to.
And a Grammy Award on debut. What did that mean to you at the time, and did it place a burden of pressure on you for album number 2?
It meant the world to me. I would, like I said, making the record itself was my dream come true, and I felt as if no matter what happened with it, I had done what I wanted to do, and if I never made another record again, I would be okay. And that was true, and it's still true as I look back. I couldn't be prouder of that record. It could not have been more on target as far as who I was, what I wanted out of my career and my musical life, and what I wanted to achieve. And the success of it was really secondary. I didn't think about that. I mean, you always hope people will like it, but I liked it, and that's all I ever wanted. So the Grammy Award was, wow, it was just icing on the cake, and it affirmed that I was on target. I had found something in myself personally as a songwriter that was working for people, and it didn't create any pressure for me, honestly. I for the sole reason that a second record was never a fait accompli to me, It was like, well, I may never make another one. I don't know what's going to happen. So it was almost like, well, it would seem like it would have created pressure, like, oh, I'm going to have to get another Grammy for this one. But nobody saw it coming, and it was contemporary folk record, which isn't like winning Song of the Year, which I did win in '98, and that created some pressure. So that's a whole other story. No, I just kind of went into the second record just going, wow, I get to make another one. So.
You say you struggled a bit with songwriting in those early days. Was there a defining moment when you really found yourself developing a self-confidence in yourself as a writer?
There really was a defining moment, yes. I co-wrote, I really have to give John Leventhal credit, not only for co-writing so many great songs with me, but in the mid-'80s, after we'd met, it was John who encouraged me to write lyrics to some of the music he'd written. And we were trying to write pop songs, and I knew it wasn't what I was, I knew it wasn't quite me. But I loved pop music, and I loved his production and his music, and it just wasn't quite hitting the mark, So I had this revelation. I was like, well, what? I grew up on singer-songwriters, acoustic guitar players who wrote personal lyrics, and I'm good by myself, and this is what I do. So the next time John gave me a fully produced piece of music, instead of just writing to that demo, I deconstructed it down to a solo guitar part, and just started singing words over it. And they kind of just came out of my mouth, and I was a little intimidated or kind of taken aback because I wasn't really planning what to sing. And the song was Diamond in the Rough, and I got maybe the first 4 lines and had tuned the E strings down to D and kind of just done this droney, Richard Thompson-y kind of, what I felt was a Richard Thompson-y kind of guitar approach. And I called John and I said, what do you think of this? And he said, you should keep going with that. And if he had said, I don't get it, I don't know if that song ever would have gotten written. So, thank you, John. So, your question was there a defining moment? And yes, and it was Diamond in the Rough. And I co-wrote it with John, and so many of those songs on that record were co-written with him and on other records as well. So he's an important part of all that.
Yeah, you've had a wonderful working relationship with John through the years. What qualities does he bring to the table that just makes him the right collaborator for you?
Oh, wow. Well, we click. It's undefinable. There is this sort of indefinable thing, that I think happens sometimes between two artists. A sort of shorthand. When we met, it was because I needed a guitar player in this band that I had. And so we all got together for a rehearsal. And the second he started playing, I was like, I just playing, not anything that he'd written, or just his guitar playing was like this. I love this, and when I sang and played, he felt the same thing. So we just connected on a musical level, but the artists we liked, but just what the music that we liked and loved, and that turned into a creative relationship, as far as writing went. So what does he bring to the table? In a way, it's indefinable. We kind of push each other and open each other up somehow and inspire each other. It's like a dance. And he's a great producer. So when we're writing, production ideas will come up, and that can have an effect on how I'm writing too. And he's a great producer. So that always kind of it's always kind of lurking there, something that he might come up with as we're writing the song. That's in addition to just a piano part or guitar part or whatever's being done in the room.
I've seen on more than one occasion in other interviews you describe yourself as a reluctant songwriter. Are there procedures you put yourself through to work through that, to get yourself into a songwriting frame of mind?
Procedures?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. No, I I really have to force myself to sit down. Not always. There have been times when I've been inspired enough to be driven to the page, or the guitar. But most of the time I have to carve out a piece of time and make myself sit down and start working. And I dread it. That's the truth. It's scary. I can get in front of people, any number of people you want to put me in front of. I don't care. I'm fine. I can sing and play. I can copy people. I've always been good at that. But songwriting is the hardest and the scariest thing I do, which is why I'm reluctant. It's just, and I'm the most insecure about it. It was just very hard won. So I just basically have to kind of sit down and do it. And I'll take breaks, and I'll write nonsense, and I'll learn a cover song. I just kind of make myself sit in one place. And a deadline is always good for me too. If somebody says, well, you have to have it done by Wednesday, and it's really true, like I have to, that can work in my favor. I wouldn't recommend it, but
because it is such a battle, does it make it more rewarding when you come up with a finished product?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no better feeling than finishing a song for me.
So what influence over your music do you think eventually settling in Austin has had? Do you think you would have made the same records, written the same songs, had you not left New York City?
That's a good question. Yeah, sure, it had an effect. I think more than moving here, though, having my daughter, probably, growing older and having had a child probably affects what I write about more than having moved away from New York. Because I still write about New York. I still write about where I was born, which is South Dakota. I write things that have to do with living here, but it's kind of broader than place. I think it's the changes, that we go through personally, and being a parent is pretty major, So I raised my child here, it's that's what this represents to me for the most part, because I moved here in '94 and I had her in '98, and she just left home a year ago. So that's what I've been doing in Austin.
Yeah. You reached the dizzy heights of commercial success, of course, with Sunny Came Home and the Few Small Repairs album, and more Grammy success there as well. But you didn't compromise your sound in any way to have that success come to you. Did the success surprise you at the time, considering you're pretty much on the similar musical course that you'd already been?
Absolutely, it surprised us. In fact, we went into A Few Small Repairs saying, all right, because the record company had wanted me to have a single on the prior 3 records, and they would pick something out and they'd want to change it a little bit or remix it or add something, and we'd go, okay, and it didn't work, So when we made A Few Small Repairs, we just went, we're not changing anything, we'll just make the best record we can make, and not going to worry about radio at all. And, that's what we did. So it's very ironic, obviously, that we had a hit song. But no, not in a million years would I have. I'd always thought we made radio-friendly music, but, on what planet or in what climate, it changes so much. And, so it was a perfect storm of us being in a great place, some really great songs, and a really great climate in terms of what radio was playing and what became popular. And we're talking about the Lilith Fair movement,
Yeah.
So it all kind of conspired to produce, a hit record.
Your songwriting has been known to be very personal in nature. Can writing those types of songs sometimes be a therapeutic experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like most times writing a good song requires some editing. Sometimes you edit out what is a little bit selfish. Maybe that's the wrong word. What's a little too indulgent. You have to know when you want to make a song that people can put their own story into. I think those are the best songs when you go, well, that's me, at least if you're talking about personal, kind of singer-songwriter stuff. So I always try to keep that in mind, but that's, you want to craft something that is timeless, if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But oh yeah, it's very therapeutic. I mean, I've written about characters like Sonny Came Home, and the older I get, the more I sort of borrow from imagination or maybe someone else, or just wordplay, something that sounds good but maybe isn't true. And it's not quite as, there's not as much drama in my life, so it's I'm the creative process is different, but it's it's absolutely cathartic and therapeutic to write about something important to me, or that I'm passionate about, or that moves me, or which everything I write about has something to do with moving me, whether it's sad or joyful or heartbreaking, confused, whatever it is. I don't know. It's got to come from kind of a pretty honest place. So yeah, that's therapeutic. There's the short answer.
What about writing your memoirs, as you also did not too long ago? Can similar things be said for that?
Yeah, that's a little different because it was all the truth, like I was just telling my story, and I had no 3-minute, 4-minute parameter, That's what songwriting is. You've got this small little parameter, and it's like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. You've got a rhyme scheme, you've got a rhythm, and it kind of helps because only so many things will work, given what you're trying to accomplish. Whereas with writing a memoir was just blank pages, a lot of them, And was it therapeutic? It was just, I knew the stories, and I didn't tell anything that I belabored or wondered, should I tell it? Or, it was mostly just a challenge, and the paramount thing to me was that it's like a similar litmus test that I had for songwriting, is that I find my voice. There had to be a voice in there that sounded like me. I had to be able to write in a prose style, as though I was speaking and you actually were hearing me, Shawn, speak. Mm-hmm. Not a ghostwriter, not what I thought would sound good, but because I look at that book and I go, there's so many other memoirs that are really more elegant. And, if you want to talk from a writerly point of view, better, more well-written. But that book sounds like me, and that's what I wanted. So that was the challenge, and I think I met it. So it was rewarding in that regard.
A wonderful side project you did a few years back was an album with Steve Earle. How did that come to be?
Well, I like doing packages when I tour. Not always, but it's fun to team up with another artist and share the stage with them the whole night, trade songs back and forth. It's fun. and you get entertained to boot, you know, to hear somebody else play. Plus, you get to collaborate. I mean, I'm a solo performer for the most part, and I love to play the rhythm guitar, and I love to harmonize, and I really like getting together with other artists and doing a collaborative tour. So I thought of Steve when I was trying to figure out maybe who could I do this with. I'd done it with Mary Chapin Carpenter and Mark Cohn and oh gosh, there's going to be somebody I forget. Anyway, those are two examples. And I'm a big fan of Steve's, and I asked if he would do it, and he said yes. So we did maybe 14 shows over a 3-week period of time, and traded songs and sang and played on each other's songs from time to time. And it turned out, I knew it would be good, but it turned out kind of better, I think, than either of us thought it would, which is not to say we thought it would be bad. We thought it would be great, but it turned out greater. There was something special going on. I mean, I don't know, it just really worked well. And it was his idea to write songs and make a record. And, I mean, and what was I going to say no, you know? But you know, part of me didn't believe it, because to get two solo artists' schedules together, not to mention, you know, just, it's not easy to kind of make something like this happen. But Steve's a pretty determined guy, and he really made it happen, you know. So that's how that happened, and we got together and co-wrote about 3 times. He's a very fast writer. I learned a lot writing songs with him, and then we made the record in about 2 weeks' time, and
wow.
That was that.
You also released a wonderful album of covers a couple of years ago, and the second time you've done that in a world full of great songs. What criteria do you use when selecting songs to record?
Oh, the only criteria I have is that I love them, and just because I love them doesn't mean I'm going to do a good cover of them. So I learn songs all the time, because I always have. I mean, that's what I've done, you know, until I found I could write them. That's all I did. And it was learn songs by songwriters that I adored. And I still do. And just because I have an idea for learning a song doesn't mean I'm going to do something to it that I think is worth recording. So it's just basically filtering out the ones that are kind of perfunctory renditions, and keeping the ones that maybe have a little more of myself in them, or you know, something a little different to offer than the original. Some more than others. Like what did I do on that one? I mean, like on the first cover record I did, that Talking Heads song, "This Must Be the Place," which is really different, than the original. So, and I did Baker Street on that new one, so that was kind of unusual. Great song, you know. So that's part of the criteria, you know. Can you kind of turn something on its ear a little bit, and does it work when you do?
Do you think that's something of an underrated art form, interpreting the songs of others, which a term I prefer to use more so than covering? It's actually a song interpretation.
Interpretation, good point. Is it an underrated art form? Possibly in this, you know, possibly in the last, say, 50 years, maybe less appreciated. You know, I don't know who's to blame for that. Bob Dylan, the Beatles, you know, we can't fault them. They did some pretty cool stuff. You know, it's, geez, I mean, I never thought about it this way. I mean, you kind of expected in popular music to write your own material, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's precious few that don't. Whereas in the, prior to, and I'm going to probably make a mistake by saying, prior to, say, 1960, of course, there was Buddy Holly. There were mostly interpretive artists. To my, Roger Miller, there's an exception. But, just shooting from the hip here, that's kind of what comes to mind for me, is that things changed a lot in the 60s as far as an artist both writing and performing their own material, and that becoming the thing that you did,
Just before I let you go, Shawn, you've been taking this 30th anniversary of Steady on the road recently, and more dates to come, I've seen. Any possibility we may see it down here in Australia?
Oh man, I wish. There's always a chance. Maybe, this sounds pretty pitiful, but, it wouldn't be this year because this is booked up. But, it's always a great time to come over to Australia at the beginning of the year, first 3 months. That's when us Americans like to go because you guys are having summertime.
Yeah.
I love it. I'd love to come back to the Blues Fest in Byron Bay. I'd love to come back to Melbourne and Sydney, and I played in Perth, and I love Australia. And it's always too long before I come back. So I'm glad you planted that idea in my head, because if anybody's going to make it happen, it's going to have to be me saying I want to do it, and I do. So I hope I will.
You are much loved down here, I'm sure you know that, and we would certainly love to see whether it be the 30th anniversary of Steady on tour or new material perhaps that you might be working on. It'd be great to see you here either way.
Well, it would be great to come there, and I really appreciate that, because I do love it, and I do appreciate the love that might exist for me there too, and I appreciate your interest very much.
Hey Shawn, congratulations on the new album. It's a wonderful companion piece to my beat up old 30-year vinyl copy of Steady On.
Me too.
And we look forward to whatever's coming up in the future from you. Best of luck.
I really appreciate it. It's nice to talk to you.
Lovely to talk to you too. Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.